So you're getting ready for the breeding season and you want to know if your females are ready to go. You know what I'm saying? They're ready to go. I mean, I hope that they're getting ready to go. Hopefully the things that I'll discuss in this video, especially if you're a new ball python breeder or you just want to tweak some things, if you're an existing ball python breeder, will help you. So, hey, stick around and let's find out.
These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Paul with Spheric Reptiles, and I thank you so much for tuning in to this video on how to make sure that your female ball pythons are ready to go for the breeding season. I just mentioned that because a lot of the times, you know, when you're getting into something new, people either don't share the information or they give you tidbits of information. And either way, it's not good, because if you go into something without knowing, as my voice just cracked, you could still be caught unaware and you could miss your goal and get discouraged and end up ultimately getting out. So the nature of our channel is to give you as much success or chances for success as possible. So that's why we're very open and candid with what we do and what we share. We just put it all out there because everybody has AI, so you could find out anyway. But hopefully in seeing the examples and what we're going through, this will definitely help you. So whether, again, if you're a new breeder, hey, you got this. You can do it. And if you're a seasoned breeder, I'm always looking, and I hope that you're always looking for ways to improve upon what we're doing in our breeding projects to make it better, especially if you're planning on expanding from either ball pythons or another species into another species. It just helps to have the information. But before we move on, I definitely want to thank you for tuning in. We definitely appreciate the support, all the comments, and then whenever I go to shows and I'm out, people are starting to recognize me. So it's good that I'm able to help out the reptile community. But again, you know, it wouldn't happen without you guys. So again, this is to streamline the whole process. So if you have a process or you don't know a process, you definitely need to try to plan this out, because I think you might not plan for your business plan when it comes to breeding these ball pythons, the females and the males, you got to treat separately. So this video will just discuss the females, and in streamlining it, what I'm talking about is the prep work that you got to do, the things that you have to track. And it helps to have some sort of spreadsheet or a sheet of paper, or you could even have Husbandry Pro, or you could have Clutch, or anything, any type of reptile tracking software that could help you get this job done. But the more streamlined you are, the better your results will be and the healthier clutch or hatchlings that you will produce. Of course, you know, this is always going to be chapped. And in this video, I'll be discussing the ideal body weight. I'll be discussing the feeding, and as well as the benefits of having an ultrasound. Now, I will also, because everybody doesn't have an ultrasound, everybody doesn't have the money or want to allocate the funds to get an ultrasound. So I'll also be discussing body weight, but that's not as good of a predictor as an actual ultrasound. So that'll be up to you. I mean, of course, you can actually look on, you know, eBay or somewhere, Facebook Marketplace, and probably find an ultrasound. The only thing is that when you buy a secondhand, you might not be getting something that is true, or it might be a little damaged. This first one, number one, the ideal body weight. So the ideal body weight, and I'll show you some animals as well, will be about 1,500 grams. So that's pretty much the standard of thought around when a female ball python is ready to go. Now, in the wild, it's something different. So a male will go up to a 1,200 gram female, just like he'll go up to a 3,000 gram female with no problem, because in the wild, there's different things that dictate, you know, if they even meet up, you know. So, but in captivity, in our breeding projects, 1,500 grams is the key. We actually, just to be honest and open, we start tracking follicular development around 1,200 grams in weight. So that's one of the key things that I think that you need to know that a lot of breeders are doing. We're not waiting until we get to 1,500 grams saying, oh, now let's start tracking follicular development and body weight. No, we're tracking it the whole time. And once they get past that wall stage and they look like they're starting to move into adulthood, so around 1,200 grams, maybe even 1,100 grams, 1,140, something like that, we start ultrasounding just to see that follicular development. And that is key to determining if you're going to catch the follicle growth, because in a sense, what you're going to see is that the follicular development happens. So let's say it starts around 5. It's always around 5. And then it goes up to 10. You pair up the male, and then now all of a sudden it's going up. Or at some point, the follicle, even with just normal feeding, will start to decline. And if you introduce a male at that point, now it's already in the past stage. So that's when we see a lot of animals are starting to reabsorb. So that's why I say you got to catch it early, and tracking is key. But hey, let's look at some snakes real quick so that you can get an idea as to what's a very good example of an animal that's ready to go and one that's still building. Okay, all right, just for an example, I'm gonna show you an animal or a female that we have that's ready to go. And this is Ginger. She's a pastel gravel. She bred for us last year. There's no water dish in here because we just did our weights yesterday, in which I remove all of the water dishes to make sure that the rodent doesn't end up in the water and getting worms and all this other stuff. And we're going to feed today. So it's like a 2-day thing. 1 day without water isn't going to hurt them. But the one thing that I want to show you is that if we look at her body weight, we can see how thick she is. And the main thing I'm looking at is this major ridge line here. And you can see this ridge, it's not folding in on itself. I can still feel it along the dorsal right here. And then also, if I pick her up, she has really good body conditioning. And I think that's one of the things that you want to do is check out the body conditioning. You don't want one that's too fat, and you don't want one that's too thin. So the way that I normally do it is this is the one part where I will squeeze them and let them move through my hand. And I just want to feel that they're a nice solid snake, that the scales are in good shape, that there's nothing wrong with her, so she hasn't, received an injury from feeding or anything, and that she's just really ready to go. So Ginger here, yesterday when we weighed her, she weighed at, let me see, 1,922 grams. So she's right ready to go. So all we have to do now is ultrasound her and keep monitoring her. Can't say that word, but I'm going to go ahead and put her hide back in here. And I got a little poop I got to clean out. Go ahead and get that now. I'm going to show you an animal that's 1,166 grams from the weight yesterday. And this is Danny. And she is a pastel orange dream yellow belly inchy that's double heifer desert ghost and cryptic. But you can just see the major difference in her size, even though she is almost 1,200 grams. You can see the difference in just her size in my hand, that she is a smaller snake. So we definitely know that she's developing well when we feel along the spine. We don't feel any defects or anything. Her body conditioning is still solid, but we do know that she is quite a bit smaller. I mean, Ginger was 1,900 grams and this one is almost 1,200 grams. So one of the things that we do is that we want to continue to track this, and she's a really beautiful snake, but we really want to keep tracking her body weight and increase the feeding and track her follicles month over month. And if we notice anything different, then we just go take her back down to feeding once every 2 weeks. But for now, she's, going into the breeding season. So we're hoping to get her up to weight sometime before the end of the year so that we can actually start pairing her up. Now that I've shown you some animals and you can see what the body conditioning looks like, so this way if you have a snake that's too small not to pair it up. And the major reason that you wouldn't want to do that is you don't want that animal to become egg bound or have any any problems with developing the follicles and ultimately the eggs and laying the eggs. They don't really give birth, but they lay the eggs. Boys give birth. So I think that's key as to having a reason as to why you shouldn't be pairing them up when they're too small. And that's the danger. You don't want to lose an animal from pairing them up too early, or you don't want them to have complications that would put that animal in danger. So either way, it's bad for the female. That's not to say that they won't lock up or anything like that, because they're snakes, they're animals. I mean, once the male enters into the scene and the female feels like she's ready, she could actually practice, but that might not be good for the female overall. And it might not be good for the male either if you stress them out. And that's one thing that we'll discuss later on in this video. But if you're looking at the screen, you can see how we just recently tracked all our weights yesterday. And so these are all the animals, and there's some that are scratched through, but I wrote them out on a sheet of paper because I didn't want to spend time scrolling on the screen. But you've already seen how we've been tracking these weights because I showed you earlier from our Husbandry Pro app. And, I like the app, but I do like pen and paper, like what you're seeing on the screen again. But one of the things that we really want to stress is the feeder type. So I think that's really important because, so if you're feeding every week and your animals are developing, then you probably shouldn't change anything. But what we do is we try to give our animals a diet. So we kind of slim them out a little bit outside of breeding season, and then we increase their activity, especially of the female, any of our breeding animals. We try to hold them a lot more, give them a little bit more in enrichment. We got these play pens and pack and plays, and you see them on the screen. I'll put them on the screen both, and so that way you can have that in case you're busy like most people and you don't have the time to devote to holding your animals. At least let them get out and stretch out their legs. I mean, they have no legs. When I was even thinking about it, it was just something crazy. I was like, well, stretch out their scales didn't make sense, but stretch out their legs. But either way, get some exercise, because I think the more exercise they have, the less likely that they will be fat, and the more likely that they'll be successful at their pairings and ultimately producing healthy hatchlings. But what we feed is this. So it's once the summer months get here, so we're talking about June. So June, not May, but for us, we say in June, we go to feeding every week. What we feed is our animals that eat rats, whether it's frozen, thawed, or live, we feed them a small rat. So that's about 69 grams, right? During the breeding season, we'll up that to a small medium. So a small medium rat for us is about 90 to 95 grams. And what that'll do, every week that's giving them 30 extra grams of nutrients or protein that they can use to develop those follicles. Now, we don't want them to use we don't want them starving. So we want them to get all of the nutrition they have and then have some surplus so that they can develop those follicles healthily. Now, not all of our animals eat rats. So you might be in the same situation like Ginger that I showed. She's a mouser. I've tried. I tried ASFs. I've tried rats. She only wants mice. So we feed her typically every 2 weeks two jumbo mice. So that's about 69 grams as well. It's just funny how it works out that way. So when we feed her during the breeding season, once she gets to start pairing and we're trying to get her going, we'll try to give her 3 jumbo mice in a feeding. Now that only equates to 90 grams. So some people might say, well, you're feeding 3 prey items and that might cause digestive issues, but it doesn't, because it's the total amount of the gram weight that actually will cause a problem. So if I were to try to feed, even if an animal could eat it, a large rat. So a large rat's pushing like 200 grams. Now that's excess protein and muscle tissue and everything else, fur that this animal has to process. And that, in a sense, will cause digestive issues. So yeah, so during the breeding season, we typically go from a small rat to a small medium rat. So we're going from 69 to 90 grams, 95 grams. And then if they're a mouser, then we go from 2 jumbo mice, which is about 69 grams, up to 3 jumbo mice, which is anywhere from 90 to 95 grams. And we continue that until they get off of food. So we continue that through all of the pairings. And we continue it until they just say they don't want to eat anymore. But by that time, we've measured the follicles. We can see that they're growing and everything else. But here's a kicker. Here's a kicker. And this is something that you really need to pay attention to. If at any point your female ball python goes off of food, and we're just talking about the females here, not the males, if they stop eating for, 1 week they could miss, but then if they miss 2 weeks, hey, you need to really reevaluate this animal being in the breeding project. There's a reason why, if you're pairing them up and they're supposed to be growing their follicles, they should have a crazy appetite. Like they should be coming out of the tub right at you, out of the cage right at you, right? They're so hungry that because their metabolism's high, they don't really know what's going on. They're hungry. So if at any point during that time, during the breeding season, or your pairings that your female ball python discontinues eating for 1 or 2 weeks, just really reevaluate it. For us, we remove them from the breeding program and just say, hey, let's work on the why for this animal that it's not eating. So we stop pairing them, which reduces the stress. We try to overcrowd their cages and do a lot of other things. And if they come back on food, then we just start the process all over. But we're really reluctant to do so because we feel like it's a one-shot thing. If they go, they go. If they don't, they don't. All right, so now I'm going to start with Cody measuring her follicles. I've already did one where I didn't have the camera turned on, but it's okay. I'll just do one more. So she is already at, let's see, what was her weight yesterday? 2,326 grams. So I will check her follicles right now. So the follicles are right up here at the top. So the spine is above that, but the spine is a lot smaller. You're not going to have 10 millimeter spines in any of the ball pythons that you have. So that's how you know it. It'll be a dark circle on your screen. So I'll go ahead and measure that. So out of the 3 that I've done, I can see that she is anywhere from 6.3 to 6.6 millimeters. And so she's not quite ready yet, but we're going to work on her and try to get her up there because she's definitely got the size and the body condition to do so. And again, it's this feeding day, so I'm trying to do all of this stuff at once. We remove all of the water from our bins or our tubs before feeding because we don't want for our animals, because unfortunately she has struck a bowl of water, and this is something else. This is just extra. She struck a bowl in trying to go after a rat, and she chipped one of her teeth. Ultimately, her tooth went back, and I mean, it healed. It ended up breaking off, and she didn't have to go to seek medical attention, but I did seek medical advice for what to do. And so we basically tried to watch her and see if she healed, and she healed up great. So she's back on small rats, but now we're going to move her up to small medium rats to see if we can increase that follicle size. Now I'm going to measure the follicle size of our yellow-bellied pied Doja Cat. And Doja Cat measured at 1,828 grams yesterday. So again, she knows that it's feeding day, but this is what we do once a month. So I got these hides at IKEA, and I just cut a little hole in them. They were $1 a piece. So this is something that you can actually use to increase the security of your animals. But I will go ahead and unfreeze that. The node goes up towards the top, and she has really good body conditioning. So let's see what we get here. All right, I'll go ahead and wipe her off, and then we can see what she has as well. It looks like she's at 6 as well, so we got a little bit more feeding. So that brings up one more thing as we look at her. One of the things that happens is as you breed these animals, it seems like their cycles start shifting forward. So they really operate on a 13-month scale instead of a 12-month scale. And that's one of the things that we definitely are taking into account, but that's one of the things that we track as well. But the main thing, again, is that weight and tracking where she's at. So at 6.6, so right now I know that if I feed her aggressively, then I will be able to, in a sense, get her up to at least 10 millimeters by maybe the end of October. So this is around the beginning of September. So by the end of October, that's just as good for us for pairing. So we would pair her up for about like maybe 3 to 6 months, and then maybe look to have babies from her sometime next summer. So I mean, either way, it works for us in moving our projects forward, but I just wanted to show you guys 2 animals and why we want to track their follicle development. And I just really love Doja Cat. She's a really pretty yellow-bellied pied. Just to recap everything, right? So in the beginning, it sounds crazy. No, I'm not going into some scriptural verse, but in the beginning, before you even start thinking about it, you need to be tracking your weights of your females. Remember, this is only about the females. I'll do a separate one about the males. I think the males are a little bit easier, but you really want to start tracking your female feeding habits. So what are they eating? How often are they eating? Whatever you're choosing to do, track their weights to make sure that they're growing, because if they're not growing or they're not eating, you shouldn't be considering them for a breeding project to begin with. Secondly, we want to increase their food, because we're looking at 1,200 grams to start to thinking about it, and then 1,500 grams as a potential target, unless the follicle size grows. So, but we're also looking at that feeding, of course. So if you're going to a small mouse or a small rat that weighs about 69 grams, then you want to try to get to that 90 to 95 gram weight. And then if you're feeding the two jumbo mice, which equally 69 grams, you want to probably throw in another one for that animal, just to make sure that they have additional nutrients to develop that follicle and not hurt their own sustainability for doing what they have to do just to stay alive. That, I think, is the biggest thing. And then the ultrasound is just an added bonus. So there's a lot of people who breed without an ultrasound. We chose to get it just because it was available, and it definitely helps to improve your tracking of when to pair up the males. So that brings up another thing. So the major reason that we got the ultrasound is we didn't want to invest in a 1-to-1 ratio of male to female, nor do we want to invest in a 1-to-2 ratio of males to females, right? So what we chose to do is invest in a ratio of about 1-to-5 females. So because of that, the ultrasound will allow us to be more efficient and streamlined as to when we're pairing up those males. So we're not pairing up that male until that female is actually at 10 millimeters or 12 millimeters. And then that way we know that she's available for the copulation. Then we put her in, and then we try to get a lock, and then we do that once a month with that same male to that same female until she goes off food. And then even then we put that male in one more time. So that could be up to 6 times for that one female, or it could be as little as just once or twice. So either way, the ultrasound makes things more efficient and more streamlined for us. But the biggest thing is that just track it, guys. I think hopefully this video shared some things with you that will help you streamline your process, because of course I've already discussed in another video how we don't breed all of our females every year. We use a staggered breeding approach, so that way we pair up about 65 to 70% of our animals every year, and then we always have some that can pair up the next year. But that also prevents us from overloading the market. We only get to stick with the projects that we're very deeply passionate about, so that we're putting out things that not only do we like, but we think that someone else could use as well. So let me know what you're doing, whether you're using ultrasound, whether you're not, or if you're using something that works better, let me know, because I'm always looking for a more efficient, more streamlined way to care for these animals. Now, also, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe to the video. It definitely helps out a lot. And if nothing else, enjoy that time you spend with your reptiles and cherish and love the family that you have. Thank you.